4:10. This may be a shotgun message, I'm not sure.
Second Timothy 4.
You'll find something similar to this as well in Colossians 4:14 and Philippians, or Philemon rather, Philemon 24. It mentions one particular individual. Now I have several sermons out of 2 Timothy chapter 4. This is but one. And in verse 10, I would simply like to read this one verse. For Demas, now who in the world is Demas? Well, he is mentioned, and Paul commends him, like I said, in these other two places, Colossians 4:14 and Philemon 24. He is mentioned as being one that is just a good worker. And yet, probably this is, I would dare say, probably the last writing of the Apostle Paul, because he gives mention of that, all the things, in verse 7. Notice what he says there. I have fought a good fight, I have finished my course, I have kept the faith. And then the last part, he talks about what is after this. You know, and at this point, and this would be, this 2 Timothy is, let me just give you a little background as well. The Apostle Paul's in prison in Rome. This is written from Rome. And so, probably one of the last things he is writing out, and is the emperor is Nero, who was a nut job, to put it mildly. And, you know, he is the one that blamed, actually, even a lot of things that happened, the burning of Rome, that, you know, Nero fiddled as Rome burned, as it was said. And it would have been a period of time in Rome, which it was, you know, it's been described as a time of bread and circuses. Bread and circuses. The government gave them food and gave them sport and entertainment. Think about that. This is where we are today. Now, verse 10. For Demas hath forsaken me, having loved this present world, and is departed unto Thessalonica. Crescens to Galatia, Titus unto Dalmatia. But the fact of what he describes of Demas at this point in time, he's left the Apostle Paul for the pleasures of life. He has left the church. In my lifetime, of the people that I have known that were once faithful to the house of God and were determined to make heaven their home, and hopefully, prayerfully, I'm not God, but I do know that I have seen a number of people that have quit, stopped. There's a popular song, give me one moment in time when I can be more than I thought I could be. That's a neat song. Now, we don't get a lifetime of that, but there may be certain moments in time where, and yesterday, as you know, we went back and relived 9/11, some of those events that had taken place, and what a tragedy, and the worst tragedy that has ever hit America, you know, by enemy. When you stop and think about that. So, most Christians, if not all Christians, fall short of their potential, though. The stories that have been told of those that ran toward the towers, that, you know, lost their lives. And we do pray for, you know, for our police and fire, and you know, I am appalled at what I, you know, see as far as what has taken place with our people that put their lives in harm's way to protect the public. And yet, where we find ourselves today, I am appalled. I'm also appalled when I get stopped for a traffic violation. But Not really. If I get stopped, it's normally I deserve it. So I just take my medicine and go on from that point. But being able to finish the course that we have set out. And so Paul addressing Demas, well, no matter whatever Demas had done prior to this point, and he had been spoken of as a real help, whatever he could do. And yet, in the end, Paul says, he let me down. In fact, he let me down for the things of this world, for he loved this present world. Well, there are a lot of things that can take our minds away from the Lord. No doubt about it. Our Sunday school class today, it was interesting to say the least, and yet we could have gone on for, I know, hours probably discussing, because where we are was talking about the love and the love of the world, the love of the Father, the love of God, the love of our brethren, all those things. And I got to admit, there's a lot of hate and animosity in the world right now, is there not? And if you don't agree with me, we're going to part company, I'll tell you that. So, keep that in mind. The idea of finishing what it is that we start. It is admirable to start. By the way, did somebody enlighten me? I'm going to ask. The old boy that's been advertising, did he finish that walk? Tunnels and towers. Anybody know? You mean we're all ignorant of that? Does anybody know what I'm talking about? The brother of the fireman, did he finish it?
He was almost done.
Almost done. Well, that's kind of this sermon. Hopefully, and he is finishing, he walked, he was walking from the Pentagon to where Flight 93 crashed, and then to finish up the World Trade Center. It was over 500 miles. He thought he could do it in a little over, I think, somewhere 30-some days. Started out in early August to do that. He was going to do 15 miles a day. Hopefully, he finishes that, that walk. Now, I was never moved to walk like that. In fact, I'm not even moved anymore to get up and change the channel. We got remotes, right? I don't even have to get up. It used to be when you had a kid, and you just had to turn the dial. Say, hey, Zach, turn that, will you? Make one of them get up and do it. You didn't have to. It's admirable to start, but it's more admirable to finish. Finish. And Paul said, I have finished my course. Well, with that being said, and as I was going over this sermon, and I thought about, once again, I don't know, any of my relatives, they never come to church, so I don't guess they get into Facebook or all that stuff. So I can talk about relatives here as well. But last week, I remember I brought out my Uncle Fred that, the guy hired him by the hour to put a room addition on, and he got it. And it wasn't his fault. He just built on the foundation that guy had installed, and so he was just a carpenter working by the hour, and he put it on there. The problem was it was out of square by 8 inches and 20 feet. And the guy gets all upset with him, and of course so what are you going to do about it? I still remember my Uncle Fred said, I quit. I quit. This is a mess. I quit. You ever been in some messes you just felt like, man, I think it'd be better off. I think I'll just quit. Now, I've been in some arguments before that I just finally just quit. Right, Doc? Huh? Okay. I quit. If you don't get what I'm talking about today, let me break it down to you. Subject of the matter today is I quit. I quit. Demas did, and I'm certain that there were others, prior to just hit some of the things where I quit. I'm going to bring my wife out on another point here in just a moment. First of all, there's a lot of people that start out very early in life, quit. I quit. In youth, I quit. But I take my hat off to my wife. Well, for various things. But anyway, there are some folks never finish school. You know, my uncles, you know, I don't know if any of them graduated from high school. They quit. In sports, a lot of times folks will start out. And by the way, now my attitude and her attitude was different. I remember telling Coach Keel here, you know, football, I wasn't never very big. So, playing football, all I was a tackling dummy. Well, I didn't like that. Big Joe back there, he's way bigger than me when he was going through school and what I was. I could have probably played football probably when I was about 23. Because I didn't get my growth totally till I was probably in my 20s, about out of college forever. And now I'm still growing, but in the wrong direction, right? Sports. But I will take my hat off. My wife, if one of the kids started a sport, didn't matter if they liked it or not, or they didn't get their way, or the coach did something, or didn't play them like they wanted, no, they didn't quit. No. You're going to play because you started. You're not quitting. You know, when we start early in life and say, well, it's not going the way I want, I think I'll just quit. You didn't quit in my family, I can tell you. And I take my hat off to her on that one instant. There are more. Sunday school. How about that? I used to go to Sunday school. I remember as a kid back in the 50s, especially. Those that remember, you got a badge if you went a quarter without missing. You know, and they started adding badges. I swear, I remember seeing some of those old saints of God back there when I was a kid. They had so many badges, they looked like a Russian general. Clear down their lapel, you know. Have badges. I went to Sunday school. Well, I got to admit, there were times I endured Sunday school. Because a lot of times, you know, you get catch-all in Bible study and Sunday school. And that's one of the things. God be my witness. I always try to have something fresh for Sunday school and prayer meeting that we've started back as well. It's not a matter of just catch-all. Oh, well, I'll do this. It'll be all right. It's not Sunday morning. Who cares? Well, number one, I do, and I know God does as well. I think it's important to be in Sunday school. I am a teacher. And for those of you that sit in Sunday school, we get some interesting subjects going. There's no doubt about it. And I got to admit, we can chase the rabbit a little bit. Today, a lot, but it was all appropriate, I think, for the day in which we live. Have you quit going to Sunday school, prayer meeting? A lot of folks have quit going to church even since the pandemic. There's some folks I haven't seen since, what, 3/11/2020? There's some I didn't see in 2020 at all. Have they quit? Well, in our youth, you know, a lot of times we quit. How about in early adulthood? I think of the story of the prodigal son, you know, there in Luke. Tells the story of Jesus about the young man coming to his daddy. I want you to give me what's coming to me. I'm just tired of being here on the farm. I want to go out and make my own way. The only problem is we know what happens in youth a lot of times. And here's a good example, that prodigal, you know. Nothing invested or nothing earned is nothing appreciated. And if that isn't the story of this younger generation today, I don't know what is. Give me, give me, give me. Father, give me my portion. And he goes out and he sows these wild oats, as we well know, and this is not all I want to talk about. But the Bible also tells us that in doing those things, be not deceived. God is not mocked. Whatsoever man soweth, that shall he also reap, is Scripture as well. Early in life, Jim and I think it was Friday. There's always sermons that I can pick right out of daily life. And so we go over, and my old cell phone that I bought off of Lissy for $100, and the warranty is out on it now. And I've got to put a battery in it. And so we go over there, and I was able to get a new battery. Supposedly they're ordering for my old phone. So if any of you call me and you don't get me, that thing may die on me. You know, or it starts ringing and it says it's got 47% this week. I think somebody called me and the thing just stuck the whole time and went clear dead at that point. So it may not be that I don't want to answer. It's just that the phone, you know, our connection's not real good. But going over there, coming from that place, Friday, we pull up there in Rome Hilliard Road there, and by the Texas Roadhouse, I think is where it was, White Castle, one of those places come out there on the Rome Hilliard Road. Here's a young woman, I'm going to guess her probably in her 30s. She's got a bandana over her head. She looked fine. Not unattractive, in fact, but a sign, and she is begging. Now there's another one. I think she was second shift, to know the truth. I'm serious. I said, Don, of course, they're there and begging. Now I got a problem. I don't mind helping people that are in need, but I have a problem when people don't want to be productive. Campbell and I, we went to the races yesterday, and he wanted something. I said, no, we'll go to Frisch's, because we just passed it when we were down in Senior. After it was over, and we go there, they had closed who closes a restaurant at 3 o'clock on a Saturday? You know? It was closed. You know what the problem was? Couldn't get help. Everywhere. Now there's a woman standing at the corner begging when there, you know, signs all around her says, here, you can work and make money. We have an element in our society that will not work. In my mid-70s, and the guy sitting back there, you know, 3 years older than me, we worked this week, didn't we, Carl?
Amen.
What kind of an employer am I, anyway? Well, I will be positive. At least you were awake, okay? I quit! Give me a break! When in this life do we have, you know, a license to just simply say, I quit? Think about it. Adulthood. I think being productive is important. If I look around, one of the things that really touches my heart is when I see children that grow up in a church, graduate from high school. I graduated from church, preacher, I don't have to go anymore. No, it's a matter of course, you talk to people about it. I've had folks that have even said, I was made to go to church when I was young, and now I'm older, I ain't going. You know what they're really saying? I wouldn't have gone then, and I ain't going now. Think about it. If our heart isn't in it, we're not doing it. Bottom line, well, some things we are. I mow the yard, take trash out, do stuff, you know. My heart may not be in it. If we wait until our heart's in everything, how much are we going to get done? Well, we ought to have a heart that is willing to serve. Graduates from high school. Boy, and by the time one graduates from college, and let me just tell you, you just evaluate. A lot of the problems we have right now are the college graduates. They have had a life of ease. They have been influenced by liberal teachers, and listen, I pray for them. But I'll tell you what, we are seeing the effects of all of this now. The old adage that chickens have come home to roost. I'm so smart, I don't need church anymore. I'm so smart, I don't need God anymore. Think about it. Quitting early in life, when life is just beginning. This is when we need to blossom as a child of God. Over the years, and even when I came here, and I have confessed this before, the Lord spoke to me and called me from Houston, Texas. I was down there. And there were those, I'd preached in churches down there. They wanted me to go to San Antonio and start a Free Will Baptist Church. We've got people there. We got money. We can pay you. And I was thinking there in the early 80s of going that direction. But as sure as I'm standing here right now, the Lord said you need to go back and take that little church. And I got to admit, I didn't want to. I didn't want to. And the Lord pinned my ears back, and He brought Hebrews chapter 11 to mind, and I'm going down the freeway, doing a job down there, and just sure as I'm standing here once again, the Lord spoke to me. He gave me Hebrews, and it's the story of Moses that didn't want to do what God told him to do too. But he was willing to suffer the affliction with the children of God than to dwell in Pharaoh's house. Think of that. A lot of times, we always, and even preachers, by the way. Isn't it interesting how preachers, in my lifetime, preachers always are led to the bigger, better church? I don't know that you can call it better, but I was thinking and reflecting on my life from back in college over 50-some years ago, sitting in Greek class. Now, when I was in Greek class, I was dreaming of somewhere else, not there. But in that back row, Dr. Outlaw is teaching Greek. I threw a little bit in this morning just to keep myself, familiar with Greek. But Dan Patrick, Billy Bevan, Jerry Newman, and Carrie Steele. We're sitting there, we're all young preachers sitting there. And I reflected back. Old Dan Patrick, he pastored a church that hit over 1,700 there in North Carolina. Billy Bevan, he pastored churches since passed. He was an Alabama fan, but we got along well anyway. But he pastored several churches, quite successful. And then Carrie Steele beside me just retired as an Army chaplain, in the military, which took 3 more years of college than what I had. And so I thought of that. Well, Lord, how about me? I'm here at a little old church. Am I really doing what you want me to do? But believe me, He answered me. I am where the Lord wants me to be. Now, years ago, I had folks when I came here say, Jerry, I just don't think you're going to do very good here, and we're leaving, and they did. There are others that I went out on visitation with, young deacons in the church, and this one, I went out on visitation, we went to hospital visits, we did all those things, I really counted on him. And when I went to visit him, it's always a danger when folks start missing and then missing a lot, I went to see him and I could tell the Spirit, was already departed. In fact, when he saw me coming, there was kind of dread in his eyes. Well, I got to deal with this guy now. But I called on him a couple times. The last time I did, and this has been way back in probably the 80s, and I told him, I said, you know, I don't want to be a nuisance, so I'm just going to let you know this is the last time I'm going to visit you. You know, I'd like for you to come back. It wasn't going nowhere. You know, hey, let me just say this. If the Lord leads folks other places and they're going to church, God bless them. Hey, truly, praise the Lord. You stay faithful to the Lord. If the Lord leads people other places, I have no problem with that. I have a problem when people quit. That's a real problem. But it's a greater problem for them, you see. Yes, that breaks my heart. But you know, the other thing I like about pastoring church and teaching and preaching, hey, there's some of you folks I know have grown a mile. And I know one was John Underhill, Deb's dad. He would call me up. And he hadn't been saved that long, but of course he had had a heart attack, and ultimately, as a young man, Lord, he was still in his 40s when he passed, wasn't he? But I was amazed at the questions this young Christian would ask me. And I thank the Lord. There's one day, by the way, I'm going to see John one day. I'll see him one day, just as sure as I'm standing here. I'll see John on the other side. But there's some that I won't see there because they quit. Think about it. There's some folks, they quit in all kinds of things, you know, marriage. I gotta admit, it's easier to quit sometimes. It really may be. Than to stay. By the way, well, I gotta remember to ask Angela about some things as well about marriage. I signed all the paperwork on one. Lady called me here a week ago and said, but I don't think the judge gave me all the papers I was supposed to sign. But I don't know. I signed everything and mailed them in, whatever I got. Other things. There's some folks quit at milestones in life. Think about that. Well, when I get a certain age, maybe youth, you know, I get to a certain age. Maybe, I get all my responsibilities. How about when I retire, maybe? You know, when I retire, I am going to vacation permanently. So, when I retire. So, don't ask me to do anything. I'm retired. Think about it. Now, there's nothing wrong with getting away and all that stuff. But milestones in life, do we ever hit that point where we finally say, I just quit. I'm done. I have arrived. Here's probably the biggie and the hardest thing for us to deal with as a person, as a Christian, as a believer, as just a human being, and that is, I quit trying. How about that one? Job's wife said, when Job and all the things, I got to admit, I don't want to have all the challenges Job had, and I think who's going to want that? Mm-hmm. All the problems that guy had. He was rich, lost it all. Well, then all the kids got killed. And then somebody robbed and stole everything, Madoff, like Bernie Madoff, lost everything. But then, of course, when you come back with that next one is, well, when you got your health, you got everything. Then Job obviously gets all those problems. Health, well, boils, misery. My word. Nothing worse than when you're hurting. Physically hurting has a way of really challenging our personalities, our, how we respond, and all those things. But why don't you just, Job's wife finally says to him as he's sitting there in the sword, and not only that, then he gets all these friends that are showing up to be, like at his bedside, he's at the hospital. Think about it. Well, Job, you must be some kind of a hypocrite. God's judging you. I'm telling you, you must be some kind of a character that we just don't know about. Even respect. Friends lost respect in him. That still wasn't it. Curse God and die. I want us to understand, though, that failure need not be fatal. You ever fallen down? You ever had problems that you didn't know how to, or maybe, it lost your job, lost, financial security. How about, I quit trying because my life is just filled with crises after crises after crises. I might as well quit. How about this pandemic? I'm sure that there are some folks that was the straw that broke the camel's back. I'm done. I just can't make it. This is it. And the first thing I'm going to give up is going to church. Or how about simply crises in our lives? I quit. Finally, though, we're getting to the end. Am I getting more long-winded, darling? Okay. Finally, though, I'm at the end. The question becomes then, well, when can I quit? When can I quit? Well, hey, we're here. I'm going to tell you when you can quit. When you sink your feet in the river of life, when you've walked through those gates of pearl and walk on streets of gold, when you walk down to the throne of God and He says, well done, thy good and faithful servant, you quit then. Amen. The battle's over. So when you lay your cross down and you pick up the crown, think of that. You can quit. You can quit. With that being said, though, I will say, I'll quit this sermon. We'll quit. Let's get it done. Let's get it done. Listen, if someone needs to pray this morning, you want to see God's face, we invite you to come.